First off, a massive congratulations. Seriously, the journey to get your Subclass 801 partner visa was probably long, maybe a little stressful, but you did it. You've made it. This is a brand new chapter in your Australian story, and we're here to help you get started on the right foot.
So, think of this as your official welcome kit. We're going to cover what it means to be a permanent resident, unlock all the new rights you now have, go over the day-to-day practical stuff, touch on some super important rules, and then look ahead to the next big step, citizenship.
Okay, let's just take a moment to let this sink in. All that waiting, all that paperwork, it is officially over. Right now, you are an Australian permanent resident. It's done.
And look, this isn't just us saying it. This comes straight from the Department of Home Affairs. They're crystal clear. The day they granted that visa, that's the day you became a permanent resident. This is the real deal. It's the finish line you've been working towards for so long.
So, what does this permanent resident title actually get you? What changes in your day-to-day life? Well, it unlocks a whole new world of rights and privileges. This is about way more than just being allowed to stay here. It's about being able to truly build a life.
And these rights are huge. You can now live, work, and study anywhere in Australia, forever. No more worrying about visa end dates. You now have access to Medicare, our public healthcare system. You can even sponsor eligible relatives to join you here. And of course, this is your direct pathway to applying for Australian citizenship down the track.
Let's just double-click on the work situation for a second, because this is a big one. You now have full, unrestricted work rights. You can work for any employer in any occupation, and just as importantly, you are fully protected by all Australian workplace laws. You are on a totally equal footing.
All right, so you've got all these amazing new rights, but how do you prove it? How do you show an employer or a bank or anyone else that you're a permanent resident? Let's get into the practical, day-to-day stuff.
First thing you have to know is that Australia doesn't really do those sticker-in-the-passport visas anymore. Your visa is a digital record, and it's electronically tied to your passport. It's a much cleaner system, but you have to remember, there's nothing to physically point to in your passport.
So, the magic word you need to know is VEVO. That's the Visa Entitlement Verification Online System. You just need to grab your visa grant number, it's right there in your notification letter, and use it to log into the VEVO system. From there, you can see all your details and generate a code to share with anyone who needs to verify your status. It's super straightforward. Now, you are going to see this number, 5 years, connected to your visa. And it's so important you understand what this means. This is not how long your residency lasts. Let me repeat that. Your residency is permanent. This number is all about your travel facility.
Here's how it works. For the first 5 years, you can leave and re-enter Australia as many times as you want. No problem. But if you plan to travel internationally after that initial 5-year period, you'll need to get what's called a resident return visa, or an RRV, before you leave. This lets you come back into Australia and maintain your residence.
Okay, let's get serious for a moment. With all these new rights come a few really important responsibilities, and you need to pay close attention to these to make sure everything stays smooth and secure.
Right. The first two are pretty obvious. Obey the law and follow your visa conditions. But that third one is the one that can sometimes trip people up. Because your visa is linked to your passport number, you absolutely must tell the Department of Home Affairs as soon as you get a new passport. If you don't, the system won't recognize you at the border, and that can cause huge headache. Now, I need to speak to a very specific group of people for a second. If you are a New Zealand citizen who also holds this Australian permanent visa, please listen very, very carefully to this next part.
This is urgent. Every single time you enter Australia, you have to tell the officer at the border that you hold a permanent visa. Why? Because New Zealand citizens are often automatically granted a special category visa, the 444. You do not want this. That new visa can actually override your permanent visa, which could seriously mess up your timeline for becoming an Australian citizen. So always declare your permanent visa. All right, let's bring it home with something really exciting. For so many of you, permanent residency isn't the final stop. It's the most critical stepping stone on the path to becoming an Australian citizen. Let's talk about that next chapter.
So your journey doesn't just stop here. Think of the 801 visa as the strong foundation you've just built. The next step is building on top of that towards citizenship, which brings its own incredible benefits, like getting an Australian passport and the right to vote. Now, when it comes to qualifying for citizenship, there's a clock that starts ticking on your permanent residency, and it's really important to know your exact start date. It all depends on where you were when the visa was granted. If you were already in Australia, your PR started on the very same day. Simple. If you were outside Australia, your PR officially began the day you first stepped foot in the country on this new visa. So there you have it. You've navigated the whole process, you've done all the hard work, and now you are here as an Australian permanent resident. You have the security, the rights, and the foundation to build an amazing life. The only question left is, what will you build next?